Hey, you guys, Steel City Nation, going to do a little what we call weekend catch-up, Ketchup. Of course, that's what we're going to call it. Let's start with some Steelers news. The Steelers let go a few coaches last week. They moved on from Randy Fichtner. They have moved on from offensive line coach Sean Surratt, and they have moved on from defensive back coach Tom Bradley. In the meantime, Matt Canada, who was the quarterback's coach, was apparently promoted to offensive coordinator. Let's just be honest here. The Steelers didn't do a really in-depth search about what they were looking for an offensive coordinator. I know they like to hire from within, but you'd think with the capability of reaching out and finding some of these new creative young college coaches that they would do that. But obviously they didn't find it necessary to do. So what do? They hire from within. That's all perfectly well and good, because it appears to me that if you're aligning with that quarterback's coach who worked with Ben Roethlisberger, who worked with Mason Rudolph, who worked with Josh Dobbs this year, then you're planning on having Ben return. Time will tell. His contract's an issue. He will count $41 million towards the cap if he returns. It would be his last year on this cap, but there are many different ways that can be worked out. So we'll talk about that down the road on the Steel City Nation podcast. But for now, on Weekend Catch-Up, let's just talk about Matt Canada. Matt Canada was at Maryland. He replaced DJ Durkin when DJ was let go, and he did a fairly good job as the head coach there, just kind of holding his place. But as an offensive coordinator there, he did do a great job. You could go ahead and look at some of his offensive creativity on YouTube. There's a bunch of different video clips and stuff of it out there. And I think it will be good for that offense to have that creativity, young, creative mind. Honestly, he was only there for just this year. It appeared early in the season, too, that he actually was implementing some of that creativity with a lot of jet sweep, a lot of jet motion, a lot of shifting and adjustments, but it just didn't seem to continue to pan out that way. So we'll see what Matt Canada brings to this offense if he is indeed named the official offense coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Other notable things that have happened for the Steelers, they did do a little purge on some of the guys whose contracts were up. They let fan favorite Duck walk away, Delvin Hodges. He gave them a heck of a run with that team in 2019, being an adequate part of replacing Ben during that year, helping to lead them to an 8-8 season. And you got to give credit where credit is due. You know, the guy was an undrafted free agent who basically walked on, made a name for himself in the preseason, and he did well enough to not only hang around and get some playing time last year, but he stuck on the practice squad this year. So hats off to Delvin Duck Hodges, and let's hope he can land on his feet, maybe grow and learn and continue maybe a productive career for somebody else as a backup or something like that. Let's move on to Penguin news. Sluggish start, 0-2 against Philly. Philly looks really good right now. Very fast, very efficient, very young. And they made the Penguins look like they were kind of running in quicksand. But you got to take it for what it's worth. You know, the Penguins actually had a brand new third and fourth line. They're working with a brand new third line pairing who was actually juggled around in that first game. And I don't think they quite had the fit together yet. They had 9 practices. They were supposed to have 10, but they only had 9 practices simply because they had a COVID scare one day and shut down their facility. So I'm not exactly sure how much of that they had together at that point. They turned around Sunday. They played the Washington Capitals, who was another rival in the division, and they played them well. They matched up really well with them, ended up winning in a shootout. Jake Gensel put it between the legs of Samsonov, who is the number 1 goalie for Washington, and got them a much-needed win. In my opinion, they're going to need to win 5 of the first 10 games in order to be in the running, because this division is brutal. It's brutal, okay? You've not only got the Islanders, the Rangers, the Devils, the Flyers, the Penguins, and Washington from last year's division, but then you add in Buffalo and you add in Boston, and both of those teams bring something to the table. Buffalo actually proved it yesterday Sunday, Monday, I believe it was the 18th. They beat Philadelphia 4-0, something like that. So it's going to be a rough run and rough and tumble strive to get into the playoffs for those teams. For the Penguins, they do come back. They play the Capitals on the 19th. They should have Kasperi Kapanen, their piece of the puzzle that they went out and acquired for a number one draft pick prior to the draft this past last year, 2020, whatever you want to say. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in with Crosby's line. He's slated to skate with Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel. I don't think they'll shake up the Malkin line. It'll still be Zucker and Rust, who I'm waiting to see Rust and Malkin really ratchet up their game. I think Zucker's shown some signs of life there. He's had some really good plays, at least on Sunday he did. I don't think they'll shake up that third line. I think you'll see Evan Rodriguez slotted in that last line. According to reports today, Sam Lafferty was sent down to that travel taxi squad that they have. And, they needed to make room for Kapanen coming on board. I also like that third pairing that they have put together out there of Juuso Riikola and Chad Ruhwedel. For those guys, they know the system and they've been in the system and they know what the expectation is. They've always been productive for the Penguins in terms of coming off the bench, coming in for a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on an injury front, and giving them what they need. Well, those guys got their chance the other day against Washington, and they took full advantage of it and played very well. So let's hope that continues for those guys. As far as Cody Ceci, he's been a scratch since that first game. He did not look very good. I still have hopes for him, but I'm hearing that the Penguins are in the market to pick up Jack Roslovic from Winnipeg, who's a right wing, which the Penguins are a little bit shy on, looking to move a defenseman. I've heard Riikola's name floated out there, but I think before I would actually float Riikola out there, I would offer up something a little bit more like Cody Ceci, who maybe could bring them something in Winnipeg that they could use viable. Now, if you do move on from somebody like Riikola, you do have P.O. Joseph, who's waiting in the wings. I'm looking forward to the day we get to see him put on a Penguin uniform and go out there and skate. He's a highly skilled player who can move the puck. He can play the power play. He can play the penalty kill. I've seen him play several times down at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and he's going to be an exciting young defenseman of that core going forward for several years to come. And finally, let's talk a little bit about Pittsburgh Pirate baseball. Let's catch you up on that from the weekend. After trading away Josh Bell for two potential pitchers from the Washington Nationals, they went out and they dealt Joe Musgrove to his hometown San Diego Padres. They got 4 prospects back. The marquee name is Hudson Head, who was, I believe, the 7th highest rated prospect by Baseball America for the San Diego Padres, which is not a bad thing. He's a lefty. He's an outfielder. He is slated to be a 5-tool guy in the future. So that could be something to look forward to. He's only 19 years old, and he was quick. He was fast tracking in San Diego, and he stuck on their 60-man roster, whatever you want to call it, for the COVID roster over the summer, and he did fairly well against high-level competition. They also were able to land a catcher because it was a 3-way deal. Andy Rodriguez, he's slated as catcher, outfielder type person, but more of a catcher. He's a switch hitter, which is something the Pirates need desperately in their farm system. They need some catchers. They really don't have much there. And then they got 2 pitchers in the deal. They picked up a guy by the name of David Bednar, who is from Mars, PA. He's 26 years old. He's had a cup of coffee in Major League Baseball. Not sure how he's going to pan out. Maybe a relief pitcher, short inning, stopgap type guy. And then they picked up an interesting guy by the name of Drake Fellows, a 6'5", 220-pound guy, has pretty good control, strikeout pitcher, and he's only 22 years old. With those moves right there, the Pirates' salary cap is falling down to about $45 million. $45 million. You heard me correct. And apparently on the horizon is Adam Frazier being moved, which would take that. It'll take that salary cap down to something like $40 million or less. Kind of hard to digest a $40 million payroll from a Major League Baseball team. They're building from the ground up. This is probably the way the plan should have gone for a while, but it hasn't. And now with the new management in there, a more direct eye at the future, being built from the ground up, maybe a 2, 3, 4-year process. Perhaps this will be the time that we will see them actually do what they said they would like to do. That's all we have on our weekend catch-up. Look forward to hearing from you, seeing you next week.